Ayurvedic Association. I'm one of the directors of the Ayurvedic Association of Canada, and I live in Kelowna, British Columbia. I have a practice called Okanagan Ayurveda, and I'm just in the process of getting my doctoral degree in Ayurvedic medicine. So if you ever have any questions, please put them into our onto our Facebook page, and we'll be glad to answer them. Dr. Kartik was kind enough to suggest that he could do a fourth webinar for practitioners that had more complicated questions on Ayurveda. So if you're interested in that, please just let us know through Facebook, and then I'll book that with Dr. Kartik. If there's no interest, then we won't go ahead with that fourth one in the series. But his website is there and all the information on what he does. So please have a look at that. And welcome everyone this evening. Dr. Kartik, do you want to, can you upload your presentation? Are you able to do that?
No, I'm not able to do that. You might want to actually give me a...
Okay, hold on, just let me.
Yeah.
Okay, I just made you the co-host. You should be able to now.
Yes, thank you.
Great, welcome this evening to the Ayurvedic Association of Canada webinar. The webinar on Ayurveda and human metabolism, probably one of the major subjects and one of the major places where Ayurveda places its attention is human metabolism. So Dr. Kartik is from India, and he got up very early to come and do this presentation for us. So thank you very much for doing that. He's traditionally trained, and he has a bachelor in Ayurvedic medicine and surgery. And he is also a researcher, which is a very interesting piece for me, someone who does clinical application and also does research. So I will give the floor over to Dr. Kartik. Welcome and thank you very much. And if you could just turn your audio and video off, as I will, then Dr. Kartik can have the main stage. So thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Erika, for that wonderful introduction. And I hope I'm audible and all of you can see and hear me. Okay, let me assume that and go forward. So welcome to this third installation of a deep dive into the Tridoshas series of talk. So this series is designed to actually look at everything that we know about Ayurveda from a foundational basis, which is of Tridoshas. So in the first two sessions, which we already did, of which recordings would be available on the Canadian Ayurveda Association YouTube, we discussed in detail about how the Tridosha principle came into being, what is the core essence of this principle, and how it could be applied to the science of Ayurveda and how it is applied to the universe. So that was our last session, how Tridosha principle could be applied in the outward atmosphere, in the universe, in the nature around us, and to understand it for better so that we can use it to our favor, to our health. Today, what we're going to explore is one of the fundamental principles of health itself, which is metabolism. So how do the Tridosha principle translate into looking at metabolism? How we can actually use the Tridosha principle as a tool to understand human metabolism, and what can we possibly gain out of this knowledge? So we already know, if I give you a small recap regarding the Tridosha principle, we already know that it actually is a tool. It is a classification, it's a grouping of qualities, and this grouping of qualities help us to understand the process, objects of everything that we see around us. And thus we can use it to our favor. We can avoid things, activities which may not actually be favorable to us. So thus helping us upkeep the health. Now, if we apply that same principle, this same grouping of qualities to our body, to our health, I think you'll rather have very interesting insights, and I think this will actually help us go forward. So we already know about what Vata Pitta Kapha is, which we have already discussed in the previous sessions. So today we're going to talk a bit more about metabolism, and that starts with the way we consume things. And when we talk about consuming things, it's not just the food, right? We consume food, which is one of the major physical elements which we consume. We consume air, we consume water, we consume thoughts. They are also something which we eat, actually. So it is important to understand the food being the major physical element that goes inside the body, what its effect, and how does it manipulate our health. So that if we actually control this main physical element, which is going inside our body, we would be able to control our health as such. So that is something which we are going to see if we can do with the Tridosha principle at our hand. Okay, so let me just share my slides and we'll start off from there. So I usually call this session as you are what you digest. So as you would know, usually we all say that we are what we eat. Right? You are what you eat. But I would say you are actually what you digest. If you look at the whole scenario of nutrition and the diet, or the study of dietetics and nutrition, the whole focus is on what we are eating. Okay. But if you look at this process of eating, there are two components. There is something which is being eaten, and you, the human who is eating it. Very interestingly, Ayurveda gives much more importance to the person who is eating than what is being eaten. I'm not saying that what is being eaten is not important here. It is equally important, but as the human being the substratum, as the human being the base who is consuming, who is the consumer, he naturally becomes more important than what he's eating. Now, this is not a very well proper concept if you look at the modern way of dietetics. The modern way of dietetics is more concentrated on what a person is eating. Okay, what is the caloric count, what is the qualities of the food that is eating, what is the intended outcome of the food. All this is of major concern when it comes to modern nutrition and dietetics, compared to what the human does to the food is actually secondary. So we are actually going the other way around through Ayurveda. Ayurvedic approach is different in a way that it always is centered around the man. I think it was Protagoras, the Greek philosopher, who said, man is the measure for everything. And I think Ayurveda has literally adopted it over the board, because man is the measure in any process, health, dictums, ethics that Ayurveda deals with. So therefore, we are actually talking about you, the consumer, who is actually taking the food in, the person who is taking the food in. So speaking of which, a lot of people do ask me when it comes to Ayurveda practice and cleanse that, is there any simple tool to actually make your health better, right? Is there any simple tool? So it's a difficult question to answer, because health and well-being is not just a very simple process. It is a result of accumulative activities of a lot of bodily systems, including that of mind. Now, to answer that, it's quite difficult, but Ayurveda has tried to answer this question. Is there a shortcut to health? There is. So Ayurveda has this unique concept called the tripod of life. Okay, the tripod of life. And what the tripod of life says is that our life sits on top of a tripod. Like you see a camera on the top of a tripod, our life sits on the top of a tripod. And this tripod, if three legs of the tripod, if they're balanced, if they are properly settled, the camera or the life on the top of this tripod will be also stable. But if one of the leg is shaky, if the one of the leg is not strong, the tripod itself won't be stable. As such, the life may fall. So it is important that these three legs are stable. And when it comes to life, these three steps, according to Ayurveda, are food, sleep, and life activities, right? Food, the food we eat, sleep, and life activities, the things which we do on a daily life basis. So these three actually support life. And if you can balance these three legs of the tripod, you'll feel health. And if one of the leg of the tripod is out of balance, you'll feel not so strong. Your life may not feel very stable. And as such, the tripod might fall. right? So an easy way to actually balance life is to actually critically think about these three things which you do on a daily basis. What kind of food are you eating? What is happening with your food? How are you digesting? How is your sleep pattern? Are you happy with your sleep? What are your daily activities? What are you doing on a daily basis, which actually is contributing to your health? How are your relationships? How do you feel about them? All these things can actually talk to you about the kind of life you're leading. And if you want to improve this life, you need to work on these 3 points: life, sleep, and your daily activities. If you make these 3 things wholesome, better, your quality of life will go up. So since metabolism and food being the topic of the day, we'll concentrate on the food today. Okay. So if you look at that, food is not as simple as we think. Almost all of us associate food with our health, our bodily systems. But the truth being, food is also very important to our emotional balance. I wanted to start this by saying this because this is one of the most common ignored topic when it comes to eating, right? Food has an emotional and psychological realm as well. If you remember, if you think about food, if you think about the favorite food you have or your favorite memory that you have with food, you'll always end up with thinking about the relationship with the people you have been sharing your food with, the kind of food you love, and obviously the kind of food you ate while you're growing up. It is quite a tendency in a human being to actually associate food with happiness. See, when we think food with happiness, we are thinking about the times when our father or mother has fed us, or we shared a food with our friends, or having a good time, right? So even when we say having good time, all of us think of going to a restaurant and having some fine meal with friends or family, right? So food often translates in an emotional basis into happiness, into something which is creating content, which is creating peace or a sense of calmness, sense of happiness, sense of pleasure to our mind. And this is exactly why when we actually go depressed, right? We are going to depressed, we are not so happy. There are people who would want to eat food more, right? We tend to eat either more so that we are actually craving for happiness. When I'm depressed, there are instances where I have felt that I want to eat more food. Because why? When I'm depressed, I don't have happiness. So my first tendency, my mind would be telling me, hey, you need to find happiness. Then I will start searching for tangible pieces of happiness, one of them being food, right? So end up eating more food, like a craving, like a depressed eating of food. There are also other class of people who would say, okay, I'm depressed, I'm not happy about my life, I don't deserve happiness, and I don't need food, which will result in anorexia, which will result in not needing any food anymore, abstaining from food, or eating very less food. So this emotional disturbance translating into a tangible association with the food can actually result in an eating disorder. Either you tend to eat more, or you will abstain from food, which will result in health condition, weight gain or weight loss or emaciation, right? In contrast, if you're happy, if you are elated, if you're peaceful in life, we do eat healthy, right? And we do eat balanced. And when we are satisfied with food, our mood is also generally elevated. I'm not saying that when you're happy, you don't overeat or you don't eat less. Yeah, you can. But most of the times when we are happy, people tend to eat the right way. They don't need much food to attain satiation. Therefore, it is important to be mindful about the relationship between your mood, your psychological profile, with your eating pattern. This is something which people usually ignore very much. Are you eating more when you're depressed? Or are you eating less when you're depressed? How is your eating pattern when you are peaceful, when you're calm, and when you're not so calm? This is something which actually has a lot of importance in Ayurveda, because you'll see as we go on how mind does manipulate the way the food is being digested and is used in our body, which is, as I said, discussed very less across the board in modern dietetics and nutrition. So to go on, to start off with, why eating a nutritious, healthy diet is not enough, right? I started by saying most of the times we concentrate upon the food that we are eating. We give less importance to the person who is eating the food. So why it is not enough to actually talk about nutritious, healthy diet, right? Why doesn't it always work? You can eat the most nutritious food, the healthy, balanced food, still can get ill, right? You can get ill. Still, your balance may be off. So what is this thing which actually working inside your body, which is actually helping you or making you ill, helping you attain health or making you ill, despite eating the best quality food? How do we understand this phenomenon? How do we go about this? So that is where our Tridosha principle comes to help. But before we go to the Tridosha principle, right, and its effect on this metabolic activity, we need to understand the basics of the metabolic activity itself. And in Ayurveda, we call this metabolic activity as Agni. Okay, so as we know, a digestion is a person's capacity to break down food into substances that can be used by the body. In this sense, food is actually our nutrition to our cells, and eventually this nutrition to our cells will become new building blocks of our body, right? It is from the food that our body creates new cells. Our body, which we call as Sharira in Ayurveda, which is actually a very interesting term, because I don't know whether I mentioned this in the last class. In Sanskrit, our human body is called Sharira. Now, the word Sharira, okay, the Sanskrit word Sharira, comes from a very interesting definition, which says, Shiryate anena iti Sharira, which means that which is getting destroyed every second. That which is getting destroyed every second, right? Now, that is actually quite a bit of a depressing definition, if you ask me, right? To understand our body as something which is going on, deteriorating on every second, but that is the truth. At the moment that we have born, we have started our travel to its end as well, right? And each day, a lot of cells, around 12 billion cells as it's being calculated, die in our body and new cells are being regenerated. So our body is in a constant process of destruction of old cells and repairing by actually forming new cells. So where is this new cells coming from? What forms the building block of these new cells? The food that we eat. Now, all these cells, all these tissues in our body need sustenance. Where does this sustenance come from? The energy derived from the food we eat. So I would say it is safe to assume, it's safe to put it this way, that our maintenance and our sustenance are both facilitated by the food that we are eating. The food that we eat becomes us, right? The food that we eat becomes us. So it becomes a part of our consciousness, because it is with this food which is actually forming cells that we think, that we understand, we perceive things around us. It is with this food that we sustain, we give energy to all our bodily systems. Hence, it is a part of our consciousness as well as a part of our physical system, as our physical body. Therefore, digestion is this one process which acts as a gateway from food being a foreign substance into nutrition being an internal substance. Right? So if you ask me what digestion is actually doing, it is actually internalizing. It is actually helping us utilize the energy which is in the nature to something which is familiar to the body, which can be used by the body to actually sustain and build itself. So digestion is that process. So Ayurveda sees digestion in this light. It's not just a process of cooking or eating something. It is also the process of internalizing something which is external, right? You are consuming a part of this nature and you're making it yourself, making it a part of you. And that is what digestion actually is. That is what the approach of Ayurveda towards digestion is. And this approach of Ayurveda is, I'm sorry.
It's working
Yeah,
now.
I'll just see.
What?
Please turn off, hang on, let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll turn it off.
Okay, I hope everybody's mute now. Okay, sorry for the disruption. So Ayurveda calls this idea, this concept of internalizing, of converting an external nature or external substance into substance which we can use use for a building block and to actually for energy production, something as Agni. Okay, so the word Agni actually means fire in Ayurveda, and in a metaphorical basis, I think this fits because Agni or fire is something which actually transforms. And this is a transformation. This is a transformational gateway, right? You eat food, it is transformed into energy, it is transformed into building blocks for our body. Therefore, I think it's a right metaphor. So Ayurveda calls this ability of a person to digest as Agni. Agni means fire in Sanskrit. It is the power within humans to digest the food and make the nutrients in it available for the body to sustain and grow. Thus, this single process of digestion or Agni becomes the whole basis of our human existence. Now, a bit of difference between Agni and digestion, that would be, when you look at the modern basis of using the word digestion, it only means eating the food and digesting it and make the nutrients available. Whereas Agni is a much more comprehensive process. It actually constitutes every other metabolic pathways and processes which is in the body, which uses this nutrition to derive energy and to build the future body, right? So all those processes which actually create energy, which transform this food into your future cells are included inside Agni. That would be the major difference between Agni and digestion, the concept. So Agni is a very old concept in Ayurveda. You go back and see textbooks as old as 5th century BC, and even much before that, you'll see concepts of Agni. So this is quite an old concept, and as such has evolved over time as well. So let's look at what Agni actually does, okay, or what is its concept. So if you look Agni, this is what usually happens with Agni, right? This is the process which Ayurveda envisages. You eat food, it is processed by the Agni, the digestion processes this food, it converts it into nutrients, and these nutrients are used by us for growth, sustenance, immunity, health, and a feeling of well-being. Now, when all this action of nutrients work together, when the food digestion works together, what happens is we feel healthy. We also have the ability to resist illnesses because your digestion is acting properly. All of your cells are getting enough energy. All of your new cells are being formed properly. So which actually results in a feeling of well-being. And that feeling of well-being is also associated with your ability to withstand illnesses, to prevent illnesses. So there is this very interesting concept called Bela in Ayurveda. How Bela is described is your ability when you are healthy to actually resist an illness and to endure through an illness, to persevere an illness. So as you know, an illness when it happens is quite cumbersome, or it's a burden to carry. But if you are healthy, if you're strong, if you have Bela, what that actually means, you have enough strength in you to actually to endure the disease so that the disease could be healed, right? The body can actually act against the disease and can be healed. Now, this happens when your digestion is strong. This happens when you have a proper digestion, and that digestion gives you the feeling of well-being and you have that strength out of it. So you often notice when you get an illness, the basic function that usually goes out of the window, the first place is digestion. And most of the times, not giving enough attention to the process of digestion is what complicates the illness as well. Even let's take COVID for an example. If you see the COVID, which is right now a pandemic, one of the major symptoms of COVID is lack of appetite, which people doesn't actually care to look for. We are often consumed in major symptoms such as lack of breath, temperature, etc. We often neglect the small one, which is the lack of digestion. Whereas Ayurveda has always been maintaining that if you actually take care of the digestion, your overall feeling of well-being would increase, which is quite true. The basis of treatment of COVID, which is being widespread in Kerala, where they use Ayurveda for treating COVID, has been focused on digestion. Can you actually make the digestion come back online? If it does, it actually brings a sense of well-being. It helps you tackle all other complications with much more ease. Okay, so trying to say that digestion becomes the cornerstone, the keystone of all other metabolic processes, which includes immunity, which is also a function of health. Right? When you have health, you have immunity. So digestion becomes the cornerstone of all this. So this is what digestion does. So it's not just digesting food. it supplies sustenance, it gives growth, it supports the function of immunity, it gives you a feeling of health and well-being. And this processes, or that ability to carry out all these processes and bring out this function, is what we call as Agni in Ayurveda. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now, what happens if this Agni is not functioning properly? Okay, let's say our Agni is to some reason it's not functioning properly. So when we eat food, there is a low Agni, meaning the Agni is not performing to its mark. So then it will result in partial or improper digestion. Now, the problem of this is when you have partial digestion or improper digestion, our body does not understand the outcome, right? The body does not understand the end product, because the end product is not well digested. The nutrients are not well digested, nor they are in an absorbable form. So what happens? Either the body will try to expel it, which can happen in the form of vomiting or diarrhea, or the body will just absorb it, but it doesn't know what to do with it because it cannot use it for growth, it cannot use it for sustenance. And these partially digested or indigested products of low Agni work as toxins in our body. They disturb the balance of the body. We don't have any strength. We will feel our immunity is not up to the mark, can actually contribute to illnesses and inflammation. Right? So when Agni is low, when Agni is not performing up to the mark, we produce toxins in our body, which disturbs the balance of the body with no strength, with higher chance of getting infections and illnesses. So that's what happens when your Agni is wrong or Agni is abnormal. Okay. Now, interestingly, why our Agni would be abnormal? It's important to understand why this fire is not burning. There are many reasons, but these are the quite few one which Ayurveda says. If the food that we eat is too heavy, right? Too heavy meaning if the nature, the quality of the food is too heavy. For example, milk is too heavy, right? So if the food is too heavy, or if the portion is too large, the amount of food that you're eating is above your level of appetite. If the food is stale, if you eat a meal when you are not hungry. So when to eat a meal is a great question. So one of the wrong answer to it is if you eat a meal when you're not hungry. If you eat a meal when you're not hungry, your body is not ready to receive it and digest it. Therefore, to eat a meal when you're not hungry can result in Agni low performing. If you eat a meal before the previous meal is digested, right? Consider that you've eaten a meal and you're eating a new meal where it is not digested at all. The previous meal is not digested, it's still undergoing digestion. When the new meal comes in, the body is already engaged in digesting the previous meal, hence it cannot effectively digest the current meal. Hence your Agni can go low. If you have any underlying diseases which have affected the digestion, that can also result the Agni being abnormal, the Agni being not properly functioning to its mark. Right? So these are the reasons due to which our Agni could be low. Now, when we say about low, let's talk about how Tridosha principle can analyze Agni. So we talked about in the last class how Tridosha's principle can actually analyze the universe itself. But if we actually juxtapose the Tridosha principle to the functioning of Agni, the whole process of digestion, what would we get? We get three abnormal kinds of Agni. So you know, when all the qualities are in balance, when we are feeling healthy, our Agni, our digestion is also healthy. Okay, so we would say, according to the dosha principle, that all the qualities are in balance, hence all the three doshas are in balance, and our Agni is also in balance. But what if one of these doshas are high or it's out of balance? First chance is, let's say if your Vata is out of balance and this out of balance Vata is affecting your Agni, or your Agni has such elements which actually such qualities of Vata which are out of balance. So the first thing which would happen is what we call as Vishamagni. Vishamagni. Vishamagni is due to Vata imbalance, and what happens during Vishamagni is our body or our Agni loses the ability to digest in a regular basis, meaning it is not consistent anymore. At times, the Agni might be quite strong and it will help you to actually digest even the hardest of the food, even the highest of the portions. But at times, even it is not consistent, it cannot even digest a very light meal. it is quite unpredictable. And that is what we call as Vishamagni. Vishama itself means complicated, right? Irregular, complicated. So when Vata or the qualities of Vata are not proper in your Agni, not balanced in the Agni, in the process of digestion, you get an inconsistent digestion, or what we call as Vishamagni. Then the second type is Tikshna Agni, right? Tikshna Agni. This is where your Pitta has an imbalance, where the qualities of Pitta has gone out of balance, and which results in a high performing Agni at most of the times, but nevertheless vitiated, nevertheless unbalanced, which actually digests anything and everything. Even you give a very high, heavy meal with a very high portion, it can digest it. But the problem being, if you're not eating right, if you're not eating a heavy meal all the time, this kind of digestion can even harm our own body systems, resulting in sour belching, chest burn, indigestion, etc. And that is what we call as Tikshna Agni. And if there is a kapha imbalance, if the qualities of the kapha are out of balance, then we have something we call as the Manda Agni. Okay, Manda, the word Manda means slow. So this is a slow performing, low performing Agni, usually results in indigestion and further heaviness of the body. So these three, the Vishamagni, the Tikshna Agni, and the Manda Agni, are the three kinds of Agni you can see according to the vitiation of Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. If you actually have more than one dosha being vitiated, the nature will also get mixed up, right? If you have Pitta, Kapha vitiation, still your Agni may not work properly. It may be having indigestion as one of the major symptoms in its presentation. So therefore, depending on the dosha, which is out of balance in your system, you can actually see the kind of Agni or the nature of the Agni being altered as well. It can be Vishamagni, it can be Tikshna Agni, and it can be Manda Agni. But depending on what qualities in the Agni has gone out of balance. Right. Okay, I hope you got that. Now, so what are the signs of these toxins? Or in Ayurvedic lingo, we call this toxins as ama, A-M-A, ama. Okay, so when you have ama, how do you understand that your digestion is not working properly? Now, when you have a gross in digestion, it's very easy to understand. It's not so difficult to understand that you have a problem. But on a daily, regular basis, even if you have a low Agni, still a performing Agni but low, it is very difficult to understand how these toxins are being accumulated in the body and how can it lead to more severe illnesses in the future. So it is important to understand when you have signs of ama already in your system, already toxins in the system, which are undigested or partially digested food. The first thing which you would notice is the feeling of heaviness. Okay, feeling of heaviness all the time. You feel your body parts are heavy. To carry yourself, it's quite a deal. So that is the feeling of heaviness. The second thing is not feeling hungry. You wouldn't feel hungry at all. There is no appearance of hunger at proper times. Bloating could be another sign of toxins in the system or digestion not working properly. Constipation, right? Constipation could be another sign of toxins or ama or low performing Agni. Lack of energy. Lack of energy. There is something called klama, the word klama in Ayurveda, which means even if you do a very small activity like climbing steps or walking for a while, you feel exhausted. You feel completely exhausted. And that lack of energy is a sign of toxins in your system. Now, most of the times, these signs get overlooked until you get a major disease, a major health concern. So, but if you are actually mindful, if you can check yourself on a daily basis with these signs, I think it will be worthwhile to understand that whether you have toxins or not, if your digestion is working properly or not, and then take charge and do counteract measures. Okay, so these are the signs of toxins if it is present in your body. Okay. So the question comes, if this is what we are facing, if actually these toxins can lead to major health issues, how do you eat right? How do you eat in the right way? When we talk about this, there is actually an interesting story, a folklore story from the place I come from, which is called Kerala. So the story goes like this. There is this old Vaidya, okay, old Vaidya in Kerala. And the story goes like, he used to get up every day in the morning, very early morning, to take his bath and go to a temple which is nearby. He walks to this temple And he daily offers his prayers to this deity in the temple. Okay, so without any fail, he goes this every day regularly. On the way to his temple, there is actually a big banyan tree. Okay, a big banyan tree. So one day, this Vaidya, he woke up in the morning, he did his daily rituals, and he was going to the temple. It's very early in the morning. The sun is just rising. So he's going to this temple. And while he was passing beneath this banyan tree on the way to the temple, there were two birds sitting on the branch of this banyan tree, making a very peculiar sound, which he had never heard in his life. Okay. And that sound is like this. Koruk, koruk. Okay. Koruk, koruk. So he thought, okay, this is very peculiar. He hasn't seen these birds before, and this is first time, and they are making this peculiar sound, koruk, koruk. But again, he was going to the temple. He didn't give much thought to this, and he went to the temple, he did his prayers, and he came back. The next day, the same thing happened, right? It was just repeating. While he was passing beneath this banyan tree, these two birds, very beautiful birds, sitting on this branch, making a very peculiar sound, koruk, koruk. Now, this happened the second day, this happened the third day, it goes on, it keeps on happening. So one day, our Vaidya, what he did, he just stopped beneath this banyan tree while these birds were making sound, and he looked at the birds and he chanted a sloka, right, a Sanskrit piece back at these birds, and hearing which the birds actually flew away. So the story goes like, the folklore goes like, these birds were Ashwini Devas. For those of you who doesn't know about Hindu mythology about Ashwini Devas are twins, and they are the royal physicians, okay, of the gods. They are the heavenly physician of the gods. So the folklore says this Ashwini Devas, this heavenly physicians, were actually testing our Vaidya, okay, and they were asking actually a specific question to him, and when he said a sloka in response, they blessed him and they went away, they flew away. This is the story. Now, what is the sloka? To understand this, we need to understand the question. If you actually look at the peculiar sound that birds were making, koruk, koruk, if you actually divide that sound, it actually translates into a Sanskrit question, ko aruk, okay, ko aruk. So if you actually look at the meaning of ko aruk, ko means who, and aruk means non-ill, or in essence, it means who is healthy. That was the question, who is healthy? So this was the question these birds were asking our Vaidya on a regular basis. So in this particular day, he stopped and he recited this sloka back to the birds. And this sloka, according to the folklore, goes something like this. He said, Kale hitamida bochi krita chankramana kramena vamashayah avidhrita mutra purisha yo strishu anasaktaha sovaruk. Kale hitamida bhoji krita chankramana kramena vamashayah avidhrita mutra purisha yo strishu anasaktaha sovaruk. Now, this might sound Greek to you, so let me explain. So what the Vaidya said is, Kale hita mita bhoji. If you're somebody who eats in time, hita, the right time, hita, the right kind of food, mita, with the right quantity of food, then kramena vamashaya, and if you lie down for some time after eating food on your left side, krita chankramana, and walk a bit after that, right? Walk a bit after that, do some exercise. And avidhrita mutra purisha, if you're somebody who does not hold back your urges to pass your urine and stools, yo strishu anasaktaha, who have a balanced sexual life and also have a balanced outlook towards everything which is material in this world, then you will be healthy. So this was the sloka which he gave to the Ashwini Devas, and they blessed him and they flew away. Now, if you look at the first part of the sloka, it's everything to do about eating the right way. right? The right time, the right kind of food, the right quantity, and also the sloka says about the right mindset towards life. So let's look at the Ayurveda perspective of eating right time, right kind of food, and right quantity. So if you look at the right time to eat food is when you are hungry. Do not delay or do not eat early. Eat when you are hungry. Make sure your previous meal is completely digested before you eat a new meal. And make sure you are not bothered by any other urges, any other thoughts when you sit down for eating. So you should be hungry. So you should not go by the clock, actually. You should actually go by your body. Your body should say when you're hungry and when you want to eat. So when you feel hungry, do not delay or do not eat early. Make sure your previous meal is completely digested and you're not bothered by your natural urges. Okay, that's the right time to eat. Then what is the right kind of food you can eat? The right kind of food is the kind of food which does not imbalance the doshas, which means, as we know, doshas are qualities. Therefore, the food should not have extreme flavors. The food should not have extreme quality. It should not actually have one quality which rises above others. It should be well balanced. It should be well cooked. So now there's a trend of eating raw food, I understand, and that trend is quite catching up. But you need to understand that the humans invented cooking because of two reasons. One, cooking makes the food more palatable. It brings more taste to the food. The second thing is it makes digestion much more easy. It is easy to digest a steamed vegetable than eating a raw vegetable. So if you eat a raw vegetable, it works something like this, something heavy to digest and can lower the energy or lower the strength of the Agni. In contrast to if you eat something which is steamed, which is well cooked, the Agni, the digestive process of our body can digest it much more easily. So well-cooked food is something which is the right kind of food. It's not banned to eat like fruits or something which is actually easy to digest, but make sure the majority of your food, the major chunk of your food is properly cooked. Then the food has to be fresh. There is no point in using stale food, food kept for many nights, or made from old ingredients to use, because the stale food can actually throw off the balance of the digestive system and cause illnesses and low performance acne. So food has to be always fresh. Then eat knowing your place, the kind of person that you are, and the season that you're living in. Okay, eat according to your prakriti. If you're somebody which belongs to prakriti, we talked about prakriti, about how prakriti is the natural constitution of a human. So eat according to the place that you are at. Eat everything which is local, because the food which is local is grown in a particular climate, is grown into a particular geography, which actually has everything to withstand that climate and geography, which can pass it on to you. So hence, eat local, that is one thing. Eat according to your prakriti, know your vulnerabilities. Right? If you're somebody who is Vata Prakriti, it also means that you have high chance of getting Vata disorders. So you might want to counteract that vulnerability by eating the right kind of food, which is against the qualities of Vata. So that is eating according to your Prakriti. Then eating according to the season. If you are in a winter season, you might want to help your body to cope up winter by using food and drinks which are warm in nature. So which we know out of common sense. But again, to eat according to your season is also important. So that understanding, that awareness become the right kind of food. Balanced, well cooked, fresh, and chosen depending on the place, person, and the season that you are in. Okay, so that becomes the right kind of food. Now, the right quantity is how much we need. The food should not be not too much. It should not be neither too less. It should be according to your hunger. It should be in tune with the amount of hunger that you have. Your hunger should be able to digest this food. Should not make you feel heavy, and it should be easily digestible. Okay, it should not make you heavy, and it should be easily digestible. That would be the right quantity of the food. The right quantity of the food. Not too much, not too less. Should not make you feel heavy, and it should be easily digestible. That quantity is the right quantity. And this is going to differ from person to person, because our hunger pangs are different from person to person. Therefore, you need to find out, you need to experiment and find out how much food that you can eat, which is easily digestible, should not make you feel heavy, not too less, not too much. Okay. So that is the right quantity. That becomes the dictum to understand the right quantity of the food. If you are hungry for, let's say, 2 pieces of toast, do not eat 3 pieces or do not eat 1 piece. You need to eat 2 pieces of toast, which is the actual amount to satiate your hunger. That's how you determine how much food you need. Now, it takes a bit of experimentation. It takes a bit of mindfulness. It takes a bit of awareness about your body and your hunger. You need to eat slow and think, is this food what you're eating is the right type and is in the right quantity? Are you having enough? So that has to do with mindfulness and being able to focus on what you are eating and how much you are eating. That would be the right quantity. That actually brings us to the right mindset. What is the right mindset to eat the food? As I said, if you want to be aware of how much food you're eating and what quantity and what quality, you need to be calm and relaxed. Okay, share it with the people you love. Ayurveda has this very interesting concept, which it says, never eat your food alone. Always share your food with people you love. It is about eating happily. So you remember eating happily when we discussed in the start of this session. Eating food with happiness or attaching food with happiness is something which we all do, and to actually make it more worthwhile, to make it favorable to us, to make that emotion work for us, we need to create happiness around us when we eat, and sharing it with people you love is a great way of doing it, which Ayurveda suggests, right? Eat calm and relaxed and share the food with the people you love. Eat together, not in a hurry. Take your time, be mindful. This will understand how much food do you actually need. Most of us tend to eat more. Right? Most of us tend to eat more, and most of us do not understand if we need all this amount of food or all this servings of food. Maybe we are happy with 2 servings a day. Maybe we are not, but you'll only understand if you're aware, if you are not in a hurry. Cherish your food. Eat the food which you love. Cherish the taste, the ingredients. We often say in India that if you love the food that you're eating, even the most unhealthy food cannot hurt you because you love that food. While I'm not very sure of that, but I would generally say that if you love your food, you'll end up choosing the right quality ingredients. You end up choosing the right way of eating. You end up choosing the right quantity of eating. Therefore, it should actually gives you health and should be a great doorway to health. So cherish your food. So eat calm and relaxed, not in a hurry, cherish your food. Now, all this being true, we will still end up in a low digestion situation. We can still end up in a low Agni state. So how to eat when you are in trouble? When you have a low Agni, low digestion, what you need to do? So when your Agni is not performing fine, eat light in both in quantity and quality. Do not engage in a heavy meal. Neither engage in ingredients which are quite heavy to digest, right? So engage in quantity and quality light food. Avoid all raw food completely, vegetables and fruits included. When you are low on digestion, fruit is a very bad idea because we often think fruit are healthy. Definitely they are healthy when you have the ability to digest them. But when you are having a low digestive phases, when you have an indigestion, fruits are very wrong choices. So avoid raw food altogether. Use either steam boiled or well cooked food. Okay, spices can be of great help to improve digestion. A great form of food when your digestion is down are soups. Okay, clear vegetable soups, not heavy soups, but clear vegetable soups or meat soups even are a great way to actually improve your Agni when you are down. Do not consume anything cold because, as we know, we said Agni is fire element, and it actually takes its inspiration from the Pitta, which is also a fire element, which is also heat in energy. So therefore, anything cold will counteract against it. So including water, just drinking water, make sure it is well boiled and it is warm. Okay, only drink warm. Even when you're doubtful, there's the sloka in Ashtanga Hridayam Sutrasthana which says, Jirna Ajirna Vishangayam Punaschushnoodagam Pibe, which means even when you're doubtful whether you have indigestion, okay, you're not sure that you have indigestion, but you're doubtful. Am I digesting right? When you have this doubt, keep on drinking warm water. It will digest the food. It will make your Agni come back online. So even not room temperature water, not filtered water, properly boiled warm water, okay? I'm not saying about steaming hot. Steaming hot can be good, but at least lukewarm, warm water. Okay. Food that you're also eating should be warm and should be above room temperature. Reduce everything which is heavy, including dairy, oils, and deep fried foods, which are oily. Okay. If you're using non-vegetarian, make sure it is well cooked, definitely not fried, and preferably as a soup if you prefer meat products during your process of recovering from a low acne, low digestion state. I would say it'll be better to actually avoid it altogether and to make food much more lighter. But something like a chicken soup is not actually contraindicated when you have low digestion. Make sure that it is clear and it has enough spices. Okay. Talking of which, there are actually spices in your kitchen cupboard which can help you. The best example is ginger. Okay, ginger is a great spice to actually improve your digestion. Just chop it into cubes and boil water with it, and you can drink that water, sip that water from time to time to increase digestion. Another great spice is pepper, black pepper, which you can add to your food, even add to water to boil and drink sip by sip, which will increase hunger, which will increase acne. Coriander is another example, cumin, cinnamon, all of this can help. So you can make a tea out of this, or actually boil water with this to drink, which will actually help as a medicine. When you actually get inflammation, when you have low digestion, right? Because of low digestion, we can get into other illnesses and inflammation. You can choose to use turmeric, fennel, garlic, cloves, and cardamom. Now, this does not work very effectively against low acne. These are the herbs which works against low acne, but these herbs would work against the after effect of the low acne, which would be inflammation, right? So turmeric, fennel, garlic, cloves, and cardamom are spices which are in your kitchen cupboard which can help. It's very easy to find recipes to make use of these spices. They are plenty available on internet to make a tea or to make drinking water, or add them as into soups or any other food materials. Okay, all these ingredients. Okay, so there are herbs to help your acne even in the kitchen cupboard. Now, so this is the exact reason why Ayurveda calls food as Mahabheshajam. Okay, Maha means in Sanskrit is an adjective. It means great or the greatest. And Bheshajam is a noun which means remedy or medicine. Therefore, food, according to Ayurveda, is the greatest medicine. If you take care of your food, what happens is you take care of your Agni. And if you take care of your Agni, that Agni will take care of your well-being and your health. Okay, so that I think should be the end of my talk. And let's see if you have any questions. If you have, let's try to discuss and share some insights.
Dr. Carden, you can either ask your questions in the chat box, or if you'd like to turn your mic on for a moment and ask a question, you can do it that way too. So enjoy whichever way you'd like to do it. Okay, I have a question for you.
Okay, Shamna has a question. Does good acne help digest our thoughts? I think yes. So now this is something where we are stepping into a bit more psychological aspects of Ayurveda. But if you think of it, the food that we eat itself becomes our consciousness, like we discussed, right? The brain also takes energy from the food that we are eating. It builds itself from the food that we are eating. So it won't be far off if you think that it actually interferes with the way we think. This is also true because if you look at our system, there is a very interesting nerve system in our stomach, what we call as the Enderic Plexus. Okay, the Enderic Plexus is the largest congregation of nerve cells outside brain in our body, and therefore can actually affect the way the brain functions. And if you have indigestion, if you have food which is not wholesome, this Enderic Plexus can get triggered, and it would in turn affects the way our brain function. So think of your thoughts when you are ill, when your digestion is not proper, when you get a fever, right? Your digestion is often offline. So what are your thoughts when you do that? And when you don't eat healthy, and what are your thoughts? How are your thoughts differ when you actually eat healthy? Is actually a good question to ask ourselves. And then I think we would understand that there's a difference when we eat healthy and when we are not eating healthy in terms of our thinking capacity as well. Okay, I think that answers it. Okay. How much time after eating one meal is digested? Totally up to different people. Usually, if you have good acne, you should digest your previous meal within 3 hours of eating it. But it is quite common that people can go for 5 hours or 6 hours. Also depend on the kind of food you eat. If you eat a heavy meal, it will take more time for your body to digest. So there is no standard answer to this. You need to listen to your body to understand if your food is properly digested. If you have digested your food properly, you will feel light and you'll feel hungry again, and you'll feel the need to eat food. Those are signs which tells you that your previous food is completely digested. Okay. How do you detox to improve acne? Now, so the detox to improve acne is actually, I would say, one of the misnomer that we have been hearing about in Ayurveda. To start with, the question is, if you're asking on how to remove those toxins and to get the acne, it is by actually using a specific set of protocols which will cook the toxins and let you out of the body. Now, this is quite different from what we hear as the normal detox panchakarma in the body. It's a completely different topic and not related to this. So if you look at the normal detox procedure in Ayurveda to get rid of the toxins or ama, which we're discussing today, it is called as pachana. The protocol is called as a pachana, and it's actually a clinical protocol. You would need an Ayurveda Vaidya to help to do that along with you. So it is pachana, and pachana helps remove or cook the toxins and remove it out of the body. I hope that's clear. Whereas the panchakarma, which you usually hear as detox in Ayurveda, is a different protocol to actually balance the dosha vishesha. Okay. So, okay. Isn't the right amount to eat when stomach is 3/4 full so that there is a little room for digestion? Yeah, this is a common dictum which is used in many tribal health systems to eat. If you divide your stomach into quadrants, you can actually, the 1/4 of the stomach should be left alone. 1/4 of the food should be left alone with, or should be filled with water, and half of the stomach can be filled with food. Is the common dictum that uses, or variations of this numbers is what a lot of common healing wisdoms use. They propose, and I think it's a good way to actually understand how you can eat and can work as a guiding tool as we go forward. But I would say eating according to your hunger is the right way of doing it. What Ayurveda actually suggests, do not stay hungry, do not overeat, is something which you need to do. So it actually takes absolute mindfulness to actually understand where it is. So since that is difficult, this would be a right way to actually put it through, right? If you leave 1/4 of your stomach alone, to facilitate more digestion, and you have filled the 1/4 with water and half with food, that would be a great place to start off the way to healthy eating. Yes.
Dr. Kartan, the next question is kind of a clinical question. So could you just make the answer short?
Okay.
About Dhatu Agni and Bhutaragni and stuff.
Okay, yeah. It is done by what the markers I bet Bhutaragni and Agni. So to tell you, see, we even divide this into Bhuta, Agni, Dhatu on a conceptual basis. I'm coming from a conceptual basis right now. Clinically and conceptually, it cannot differ. When you have a problem with Bhuta and Dhatu, you will see its reflections on the gross digestive process and your gross health status as well. So it is not at all difficult to identify those. Okay. When and how is fasting recommended? Fasting is recommended as a treatment protocol in Ayurveda. Otherwise, it is not recommended anywhere for a healthy human being. Yeah, you can do your fasting. It's not contraindicated, but it is not usually suggested unless there is a specific aim that you're trying to achieve. For example, when you have toxins, which you're talking about today, right? When you have ama, one of the great way to actually to eliminate it is by doing fasting under proper monitoring to make sure that your digestive system is not overloaded and you can cook the currently circulating toxins in your body. So yes, it works as a treatment protocol under the monitoring of an Ayurveda physician. And for a healthy human being, Ayurveda says if you have hunger, you can eat food. It does not suggest to go fasting on a regular basis, or intermittent fasting for that matter. It does not suggest that, but it is used as a tool to actually help your system to recover and come back online. When should not eat pepper and garlic? When we should not eat, that's a great question. What are the contraindications of pepper and garlic? If you have burning sensation in your stomach, if you have hyper Agni, if you have your hunger is quite high, and if you have ulcers in stomach, if you have sour belching, burning sensation in the chest, burning sensation in stomach, you should not eat pepper and garlic. That's a great question. And not just in a clinical basis, even when you're cooking. If you have these kind of issues, you should not use them in cooking either. What are the thoughts on intermittent fasting? Definitely works when you have a proper, as I said, a specific end which you're looking for to gain, and it works to detox our system, which removes this ama out of the body. So yeah, it works. Okay, what are the foods, vegetables which will help reduce or remove ama? The spices which I just said actually removes ama. Hot water does. Taking care of your acne itself can actually remove ama. If it's very strong, if it is deep-rooted, you might need a consult with an Ayurveda physician and might want to take on herbs as well. Okay, but the general knowledge which you need to know about ama I have just discussed in the class about the spices and the kind of water you use, the kind of food that we use as in soups and stuff. Okay, they are all good. Everything which is warm and light, that's the general dictum. It has to be warm and light, easy to digest, would be okay during an ama phase. Okay. Will the session be available? Yeah, the sessions are available on the Association of Canada Association's YouTube page. Most times, if a person can go a long time without eating because there is no hunger, it's a sign of Mandakni. If we should eat only when there is hunger, how do you break the cycle of Mandakni? So that is when you are actually ill, right? When you're having Mandakni, it means that you don't have enough hunger. And then you need to actually counteract against the Mandakni and go into a protocol where to improve the Agni. So there are two elements into it. If you look from a conceptual clinical basis, one is to cook whatever toxins which are already formed in the body. And this process is called pachana in Ayurveda, pachana. And once the pachana is done, the next phase is to actually improve the strength of the Agni, which is called as deepana in Sanskrit. So interestingly, the term pachana means cooking and deepana means kindling. So cooking the toxins, kindling the fire. That's what we do. Okay, that's how you break the cycle of Mandakni. Should you stop eating after you belch during a meal? Usually considered as a marker that when you burp while you're eating it's one way of understanding that you have enough food. But the true marker would be your mind, which tells you you have had enough, your stomach is good to go, your hunger is, this amount of food is good for your hunger. It's the actual marker, which Ayurveda says. Yeah, but belching can be understood as a physical sign, which is also a good place to start. But being mindful while you're eating is the best way, if you ask me, and which has worked for my release. Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth, for that question. Very long time seeing you. So, Shraddha, how to take care of acne during change of weather? Yeah. So during change of weather and seasons, the way to actually go about it is to understand the quality of the season that you are in. If you are in a very cold season, you need to actually help your body against that qualities which acting against your body, right? If you're in a cold winter, you need to have more warm foods. If you're in a summer, right, where the heat is more and everything around is warm, you need to take care of your body by counteracting the summer by using food which are cool and more light in nature. So you generally work against the qualities of the season to make sure your body is doing well. With respect to Agni, Agni is always warm. So make sure you do not consume anything too cold, overtly cold and heavy, so that the Agni can be Agni can stay healthy. And combining these two principles together, you can take care of your Agni and take care of your body during any climate changes. Okay. Where are the sprouts and microgreens placed in Ayurveda? Thank you, awesome insights. Welcome. And sprouts and microgreens are not very well discussed elsewhere in Ayurveda. In certain conditions, it's also said they may not be as healthy as a whole vegetable or a whole grain as well. So I think sprouts in a modern sense would help you digest better because the protein being broken down and being more simpler once they're sprouted. So it's more makes sense, but I don't think much discussion is there in Ayurveda about sprouts and microgreens. It actually, there are instances where I can quote where it says sprouts may not be actually very healthy because it is too light and can, if you eat them on a continuous basis, can vitiate the Vata dosha. That's why I think they are a bit partial. Okay, I think I've exhausted the questions. Is there any more questions? I think not. Erica, off to you.
Oh, thank you very much. It was wonderful. So I just have a comment. Dr. Karting would be willing to come back if you're a student or if you're a practitioner or a consultant and do a little talk from a more clinical point of view so we can get clinical questions answered. If you're interested in doing that, please can you just text me through Facebook and I'll know if there's enough people to bring Dr. Kartik back. I don't want him to have to get up early in the morning unless he has to for us. So please, if you're interested, do that. Also go to our website and join us as a member. We would really appreciate that. And our next webinar will be in 2 weeks. So just pay attention to Facebook and you'll see it. And also in the next week, I will get all 3 of his presentations uploaded onto the Ayurvedic Association of Canada YouTube channel. So thank you. Good night. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.